Yo, people, what you saying? What you spraying? Back again with another stream, and today I'm joined with none other than the Gooner Talk himself, Mr. Tom Canton. Man, love for coming through. Hope you're good, and I hope you're willing to chop up some good stuff about Arsenal, man.
Yes, man. It's good to chat again. Good to be on, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should be good.
All right, sweet. Well, obviously admin stuff, like and subscribe, all of that. Let's get into it. All right. So, what a wonderful way. I all prepared things to talk about, and then we just had some wonderful news just dropped from David Ornstein. Apparently, Frankfurt, they're interested in taking Fabio Vieira from us. How do you feel about this one? Do you think you think any legs to it?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, if David's reporting it, then it's he's the best in the business. So when it comes to transfer news, so certainly there's plenty of credibility that goes alongside this. Arsenal have been looking to offload Fabio Vieira all summer. Really, he was never a player that was high up on the majority of clubs' books for earlier in the window. But as the window goes on and into August now, it's a player and among quite a few others that will probably start to crop up as options for teams as they look to do some late business. So if Arsenal can get, a decent figure for Vieira, get him off the books, his wages off the books as well, then who knows what that means for potential other business they could do.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm looking at the tweet and I can't see if it doesn't say whether it's a loan or
it'll be a permanent deal.
It'll be a permanent. Okay, no figures at the moment, but hey, that will be perfect. A perfect little space for who I'm saying he needs to come home. Eberechi Eze. I think it will be a clear. Well, obviously, we probably want to get rid of more people, right? Well, I can only assume. And my thing is, I know that we're not looking to get rid of people necessarily because of finances, but it's more because of squad space and bloating of squad. And we don't want to leave ourselves in a scenario where we've got too many unhappy players. But hey, I'm not going to complain at Fabio Vieira leaving. Personally, it was, I was happy when he came, but I just think since he's come, he hasn't really adapted to the league. He hasn't really physically grown. And I think his development's been a lot slower than what Arteta would have hoped. So, hey, if we can find a amicable way to get Fabio Vieira out and then bring Eze in, I am all for that. All right, sweet. So speaking of windows, let's get right into it. So have you been impressed with Berta?
Yeah, I think when you look at a first window for a sporting director, he's spent close to our record for what we would spend in a window and brought in 6 players. And not only that, but he'd done the majority of all of that pretty early, in the window as well. And that's what we wanted to see. We wanted to see Arsenal be quick. We wanted to see them get on the ball, get players in before pre-season started. If they couldn't get a player, not to kind of waste time and hang around negotiating for weeks and weeks and weeks, and instead, pivot. And they wanted Sesko, for instance, as an example. They were, in discussions about a potential deal. But Berta, when he recognised that Leipzig were not going to budge on a ridiculous price tag on him, which still remains today, of course. You've got Newcastle being rejected 80 million euros for Sesko in a recent bid. They want 90 million euros, which I think is mental money for Sesko personally. And he went and got a really good deal for Gyökeres, 63.5 million euros plus 10 million euros in add-ons. That's a much lower than I thought he would cost, considering he has a 100 million euro buyout clause in his Sporting contract. And the president of Sporting, of course, reneged on that previous agreement that was supposedly there. They've got pretty close to it. So very impressed so far. Obviously, there's the outgoing side of things. I want to see some, outgoings and sales and see how he gets on that front. But I can have very little complaints about how he's gone about his business so far. What about you?
I think I'm forever gonna love Andrea Berta because he brought Victor Gyökeres to the club. It's no secret that I love Victor Gyökeres. To me, he was the number one target that I wanted to see come into Arsenal for any position. Last season, I would have sacrificed all of our signings if it meant that I signed Victor Gyökeres last season. And I just think that now as Arsenal fans, we're probably seeing, I guess, a level of, I guess, acumen that we haven't really experienced since maybe David Dean. Like, he's so good at what he does. And I like his style. You know, he's not just, I guess, putting all his eggs in one basket. He's talking to loads of different targets. He's talking to loads of different agents. He's trying to get deals to a point on the personal side where he then can just negotiate with the clubs. And when he finds, I guess, a price point that he's happy with, he can trigger. It's clear to me that he's been given, I guess, the ability to, I guess, trigger deals when he wants to. It seems like he has a certain level of autonomy that I'm not so sure that Edu had. And I think that Berta coming in and being as experienced as he is and having the know-how that he does and having, I guess, the black book that he does, it only helps Arteta. I think every manager, I think, really wants a world-class sporting director, someone that can just do their side of the job so they don't have to focus on it. And I feel like that part Berta has handled really well. And I also think like the contract negotiations of like our current players is like, it's kind of going under the radar. Like he's actually progressing really well with keeping players that we want to stay at Arsenal as well. So, I mean, I think anyone, well, I've heard loads of takes, you know, I've spoken to some Arsenal fans that they're not happy with the transfer window. Me, myself, personally, I love what we've done so far. I understand the need for us to rebuild depth. We've had a lot of players leave. And for example, for him to go out and replace Jorginho with Norgard at like 10 million.
Yeah.
That's great. For him to go and for him, I think this is one of the most unsung kind of deals of the window. For him to not push for Joan Garcia, who would have been 25 million, and then pivot to Kepa, who only cost us 5 million, who is Premier League proven, willing to fight, and has experience winning the Champions League. I think he was Chelsea's best keeper when we signed him. That's an excellent signing. In my opinion, that's gone under the radar. So he's not just, obviously, I don't know the ins and the outs, right? And maybe this is something that you can school me on. But to me, it just looked like Edu was just always chasing the end of the rainbow. It just seemed like he always had one deal that he was really focusing on. And from an outsider's perspective, we was like so certain that we was going to get that. And then we don't get it. And then we end up with like Sterling, for example, who, you know, obviously Sterling, seasoned professional, illustrious career, but we definitely signed him at the wrong moment. So I'm over the moon with Berta, and I just look forward to seeing how he kind of develops Arsenal going forward. And if I was to give him a rating out of 10, I'd probably give him like a 7.5, 8. But hey, a lot of people will be like, I'm going mad, but I can't. Like, I don't know. I have an excitement again as an Arsenal fan. I don't know if I'm assuming you've watched all the preseason games.
Yeah.
So from what you've seen so far in the preseason games, what kind of direction do you think the team's gonna go in? Like how can you see us, I guess, being a bit different to what we was last season?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because you know, preseason games they're really kind of just for fitness mainly. That's the primary reason you have those, to build your match fitness up. And I don't think Arteta's going to want to give too much away ahead of, you know, if maybe we were playing like an easier run of fixtures to start the season, then maybe we could be a little bit more open to what our ideas and stuff might be. But because you're going into such a high-profile game against Man United straight away, you don't really want to show your hand in pre-season too much as to what you want to do. And you don't want to give too much insight. I think Man United, on the other hand, have pretty much shown their hand, you know, in terms of what they're shaping up, like what they're going to do, with the new signings, of course, in as well. So it's difficult. I think that there are benefits and drawbacks to this preseason run. I think the benefits definitely lie in. I thought Odegaard looked sharper than he had done all of last season, which is obviously a positive because we need to see him back and firing at his best because Arsenal tend to be better when he's better. So that was important. Max Dowman obviously stole headlines all throughout the summer and his impact on preseason. And I think he's definitely, in terms of youngsters that get a chance in the summer to show what they're worth, can they break into the senior setup? He can do no more really than what he did in the performances he was given. And I think, players like Zubimendi, I was really impressed with, how he progresses the ball. And I think that he is probably the biggest symbol of what we might see next season in the sense of, I think there's an extra kind of gear now in terms of the speed we move the ball up the field. And I think that's going to be important for us. We still need to do more in that element. And against Spurs, Zubimendi didn't start that game. I think we did lack the speed of transition and we weren't really ruthless enough, I thought, when on the ball, and we looked a little bit tame at times. But the concern for me remains the left-hand side. Now, that area is what we seem to be quite blunt in. And a lot of the focus is on the right because you've got Saka and Wyatt and Odegaard, and obviously Havertz tends to skew sometimes to the right-hand side as well. And so that obviously leaves Martinelli pretty exposed. He doesn't have an overlapping fullback. He has an inverting fullback who supports the midfield rather than supports the winger. Declan Rice is a great player, but he's not as creative like Odegaard is on the left. So it does isolate Martinelli or Trossard. And I thought they both struggled. And also, Reece Nelson arguably looked more impressive than both of them when he came off the bench, which is also another kind of a red flag. So I think there's two parts to this. One is personnel. I think we need to upgrade the left-hand side. I think we all thought that before the summer window came around, but there are other areas of the field where we were lacking in personnel, where we had two starting left wingers already, but that was definitely an area you want to see upgrading and could still see an upgrading before the window closes. And then, of course, the system side of things, the coaching side of things, that's something that Arteta still needs to, I think, create more variety with. Like, we were so one-dimensional last season, and there's been some of that lagged into preseason. As I said, it could be as a result of not wanting to show too much about what we're going to do next season, but that systematically there's still some lag and issues on that left-hand side that Arteta absolutely has to address.
How would you solve the left-hand side? So, okay, I personally believe that Eze is a given. I think he will be an Arsenal player next season. Now, when it comes to the likes of Rodrigo, Leao, I have no clue. I still believe we need someone else on the left that does provide a bit of chaos. But let's just say we ended the window with just Eze being one of the options. I'm happy with that. I'm cool. I'm fine. Because I think Eze is that much of a level raiser that I would be okay with it. But let's just say Eze's coming in, he's an Arsenal player. How would you balance and I guess kind of solve the very glaring issue we've had, which is we are right-sided heavy?
I think there's a few things you can do. I think one is you can change the left back and how we use the left back role and make it more traditional at times. I don't mean like not inverting at all, but I think giving an emphasis to Lewis Skelly to overlap at times, the left wing. I mean, I remember, was it the PSV game? I think Lewis Skelly did run in behind and set Winery up for a goal. Like, I want to see more moments like that from him as well. And I think that comes from him being given more license. I think the midfield structurally can slightly change. You could switch to more of a double pivot in Rice and Zubimendi and then move Odegaard into more of a freer number 10 style role where he's given license to not just support the right-hand side, but also shift to the left. Zubimendi does get forward at times, so does Rice. And when Odegaard shifts to the left, you can kind of move Zubimendi further up and Rice then kind of drops into the number 6 role, if you will. So it offers that balance. So they're definitely aspects that change. But I think Gyökeres is also a really important part of this too, because we play at the moment with two inside forwards who tend to cut inside to create. Saka has obviously mastered a lot of going on his weaker foot and crossing in with his right foot as well, which has really helped us. But Martinelli or Trossard much less so on their left foot. But I think actually there's a player that could change this that we have already in Noni Madueke potentially, because you've got a left footer potentially moving to the left-hand side, which gives them more of an impetus on cutbacks and crosses and getting more direct balls into the box earlier or towards the touchline. So having that variety and difference rather than having two inverted wingers, I think actually could really help that left flank too. So again, it's systematic, but it's also a personnel thing again on how we fix this.
If I don't know, something that kind of stands out to me is that if we do play in a double pivot, we could actually benefit from Declan Rice playing on the right side of that double pivot and Zubimendi playing on the left side of that double pivot, because Declan Rice is right-footed. So if you have him on his, I guess, his more favorable foot and you just kind of switch it up a bit, you then have, I guess, there's probably less need for our left back to invert, because Zubimendi, he will be fine over there, and the bombing will be on the other side, which is, well, where we usually have Timber, who naturally inverts as well. I don't feel Saka would suffer the same way as Martinelli suffers from being left out on an island. And you then have Ødegaard, who won't always need to naturally hang on the right. He can then start being more involved on the left, because now effectively our controller, at least from deep, our controller of the ball is going to be moving more in the left-hand channel. So that's one way I would potentially solve it. But I'm even having wild thoughts of, you know, maybe sometimes why not put Ødegaard in the left-hand side of the pivot?
Yeah. And
then maybe have Eze in the 10, should he so come. And then Zubimendi on the right-hand side. Like, the one thing, I know, I guess it'd be, obviously, who am I, right? I'm a guy that sits on my chair and talks about Arsenal. But I feel like one of our biggest issues is it's way too easy to predict our starting lineup.
Yeah.
For last season, most of the games, and I know we had a lot of injuries, but even when we don't have injuries, it's very easy to know who's going to play where. Like, I would be very surprised if Saka doesn't start right wing, if Havertz didn't start up top, if Martinelli didn't start on the left wing, if Ødegaard didn't start in the midfield, if Rice didn't start in the midfield, if Partey didn't start. Like, it's all, and if Partey's not playing, then I know it's probably going to be Jorginho. And if Rice is not playing, then it's probably going to be Marino. Like, it's just way too, like, Skelly, always going to be left back, but that's because of injury. But then even then, I know it's going to be Calafiori. Like, I just feel like it's way too easy to predict what we're going to do. And what I would like to see next season a bit more of is Arteta just throwing us all off. Just like, oh, wow, I never expected Arsenal to set up in this way.
Yeah.
But hey, am I going crazy, Tom, or is it a valid point?
No, it's definitely valid. As we mentioned, kind of that one-dimensional feeling about Arsenal last season. You know, we need more variety. And I was doing a show the other day, and we did a phone-in show and got people to call in. And one of the listeners said, you know, we need to take the handbrake off. And I think that was kind of the perfect kind of, you know, way of looking at it, because we did play a lot of last season in first and second gear. And I know injuries, as you said, you know, played a part in that. And Arteta, I think, came out in an interview over the summer and said that he was basically picking players on their availability rather than any tactical kind of mindset about it. So this season, that's different. This season, he has the depth. He has basically two competitive players in every single position on the field when everybody is fit. So it should be more difficult to choose the 11s. Like last season, before every game, we do a predicted 11 article. It was the easiest piece for me to write every week because I knew exactly who was going to start. Next season, I want this to be a challenge to write that article and make it difficult for me to guess what's going to be the lineup, because last season it was too simple to guess. And that means if I'm guessing it, it means the opposition are guessing it and they can prepare for it far easier. And that then also comes down to, you know, Arteta rotating often as well. So it's not always Timber, and White does come in and play. It's not always necessarily for, you know, against some of the, with respect to them lower down the league oppositions, you can use Mosquera instead of Saliba and give him a rest in games. Yeah. And Kivior over Gabriel. We know Kivior can cover Gabriel. He did it against Real Madrid. We know he's got that quality to be able to do it. Yeah. So Kivior comes in. You use Calafiori when fit, you know, at left back. You use Norgard for certain games. Mikel Marino is an interesting profile for next season because obviously he used a lot at centre forward when we were in dire straits last year. But he is a really solid option for our midfield. He showed that in pre-season when he scored that goal against Newcastle. So I think that there is, and Madueke as well is, well, he wasn't the guy I wanted personally, and I know that was the case for a lot of fans, and the fee in particular is very high, and he's got a lot to prove, and I hope he does prove a lot of people wrong, because he didn't deserve some of what some people were saying about him, that's for sure. But he adds difference for us. He adds variety. He adds an unknown, potentially chaos factor to us. So I was looking at some of the stats around kind of on the left-hand side for Madueke yesterday when I was writing a piece for this morning. And when you look at Martinelli, he ranks in the 46th percentile for successful take-ons in the top 5 leagues. Trossard ranks in the 33rd. So that means that there are 54% of players are better at take-ons in the top 5 leagues at left wing than Martinelli is. And 67% of left wingers or right wingers are better at take-ons than Trossard in the last year. Whereas Madueke ranks in the 76th. So only 24% of, wingers in the top 5 leagues do better. And what's really impressive about Madueke's numbers is he ranks in the 99th percentile for progressive carries per 90. He's really good on the ball. He's in the top 1% of top 5 league wingers in terms of ball progression and carrying the ball. He's really good on it. And we've lacked kind of players in the wide areas that can take their man on. So, I'm looking forward to what he gives, even if I am skeptical about the deal in itself.
And I do think that those are probably 2 data points that the Arsenal recruitment team, Arteta, was definitely focusing on a lot when considering this Madueke deal. So, just on Madueke now, like I again, just like you, I didn't want Madueke. For me, the price doesn't matter. Like, I'm of the mindset that the money's not coming out of my pocket. Like, so I don't do economy-based football. I'm not smart enough to do it, not intelligent enough. I don't understand math too much like that. So I just focus on the football. But two-part question, would you be happy if Madueke was the starting left winger for the majority of games next season? And if he is the starting left winger, because of all of this, like the progressive carries, taking on his man, do you think that we're potentially going to tweak the system a bit and potentially play more, I guess, transition-based football?
Well, I think you have to, because of the centre forward we've signed. He is predominantly not a possession style, so in the chat box called it in the other day, was it a horseshoe philosophy, where we kind of just like play around the box. I said I used the example of when I used to be on shows with Hugh Izzy, that I used to call it walk football, where you're just kind of going from side to side. And I think it's a fair analogy, because we do tend to just move the ball around the 18-yard box and lack a bit of penetration now and again. So I do think that there's something in that, and I think that we have to be a little bit more. We have to be a little bit less dominant. Arteta often talk. I remember sitting in press conferences after games, and he sits there and he says, we were dominant. We were the better team. We had more of the ball. We controlled it. In 9 times out of 10 games, we win that. And we are. And I was sitting there going, maybe that's the issue. Maybe you can have a thing as too much control, and maybe you need to surrender possession at times and be better at turnovers in your own half, and then hit quickly and dangerously on the counter more often. And I think with a striker like Gyökeres, definitely that's what we're going to have to do. But am I happy with Madueke being our left winger? If you said at the start of the season, start of the summer, that's who it was going to be, I would have been like, okay, that's interesting. It wouldn't have been who I would have picked. I'm curious, but depending on what else we do in this window, the only way I see us signing a left winger is if one of Trossard or Martinelli go. I don't see us signing a Rodrigo or a Leao or whoever, unless one of those two are sold. Eze is separate to that. So the Eze stuff is, to my understanding, very separate. But the only way Arsenal are going to sign a left winger, to my knowledge, is if one of Trossard or Martinelli leaves. And right now, that doesn't look too likely. So we wait and see, I guess.
Tom, why would you do that, man?
Sorry, man. I'm just telling you what it is. I'm just telling you the facts.
When you say that, and to my knowledge, I know where your knowledge comes from, and the people you taught, it just means a lot more than just reading a tweet, man. So, okay.
What tweets you been reading?
Operation we need to get either Martinelli or Trossard out so we can bring in a left winger. But no, I don't know. Like in all fairness, like I said, I'm happy with Eze. You know, it would be good to do a bit more, but I am happy with. If we don't get Eze, then I'll probably have a bit of problems. But outside of that, I'm fine with Eze. But then if we don't address, I guess if we don't sign another left winger, then I would like to see us sign someone else in another position just for squad depth. Like for me, something that I'm well aware of is that at times our 11 is fine, but the problem comes when we have to start looking at the bench, or we have to start worrying about the depth of the squad, and we get injuries, and now certain players that you was cool with coming off the bench, they now have to start, and now it's looking a bit different. That's all I care about, really, is like, but I feel like, and a lot of Arsenal fans won't like this, but that's something that Berta's going to address over maybe the next 4 to 5 years of his tenure. Like, he was never going to address it in just one transfer window. Like, it was never just going to be this summer, and then all of the problems that we had previously, he just solves it immediately. And then now we're Man City of like 2 years ago, and we're just destroying everything on all fronts. Like, that was never going to happen. But yeah, it's just a little bit of a like to the heart when someone like yourself says, unless Trossard or Martinelli goes, we're not bringing in anyone. All right, so let's talk a bit about expectations. So based on everything that we've done so far, what are your current expectations for next season? So okay, I don't know how you approach seasons. So when it comes to, actually, maybe I should ask that first. So when it comes to the beginning, like a season's approaching, do you, like, I guess, within yourself start saying, okay, I really want to see Arsenal prioritize this. I want to see this from Arsenal. I want to win this. Like, how does your kind of, towards the beginning of the season, how do you start thinking, and how do you set that all up?
Well, my mindset always, an absolute minimum priority is that you got to aim to win everything you're in. You know, every competition you enter, you've got to try and win it. I don't really like sitting there and saying, we've got to prioritize this so we can afford to drop out of this competition. I have my issues with the League Cup a lot, more not so from an Arsenal point of view, but just the way that competition's been denigrated, really, because of the way in which it's been given kind of a UEFA Conference League reward for winning it, and just double-legged semi-finals. It's made it a bit of a pain to be in existence, really, that competition. So throughout the season, my attachment to that is far lower than obviously the FA Cup, which again I think is another competition that people talk about so disparagingly. Like, that's a major trophy if you win it, the FA Cup, and it has been and always will be a major trophy if you win it. The two that stand out are obviously the Premier League and the Champions League. And when you look at Arsenal over the last 3 seasons, we've managed to finish second in the last 3 campaigns. We've been the second best club in the country for the last 3 seasons. Last season was gutting because I felt as though after a campaign in 23-4 where you've got so close, 2 points off from winning the league, that you're meant to take that season and let that propel you in the following campaign. But the window was so disappointing, obviously, that we didn't utilize that at all. We didn't take advantage of that, and that showed. Obviously, injuries played a huge part. But my thought process before the summer window in this summer was always, I want to be in a place at the end of this season where the only thing I can point to is the manager if things haven't gone well. So I don't want to be in a position where I can go, well, the window, he didn't get backed. He didn't get the players that he wanted. He didn't get the positions that he wanted. If we get Eze in and we've got 7 players through the door, forget the left wing, which I know is still something that we want. But if we get Eze in who can play in a wide role, and he's got Madueke as well, another player he'd wanted, you have to say he's been backed. Like, it's not like 24-5. He's been backed. So I feel that we have set up Arteta and his team to have a real go from a kind of introverted standpoint. If you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, obviously Liverpool's business is has been unbelievable. This summer, the players they brought in. I still think it lacks balance. I think they need a centre half. I think they need a defensive midfielder. And if they spend 100 whatever million on Isak, which is a brilliant signing in closed analysis, but then don't sign those really two important positions for the squad. It's almost like they do what Arsenal have done in previous years, where they spend a load of money on players that look great, but have left gaping holes in the squad, which if a 34-year-old Van Dijk has an issue, they're looking a bit weak. If Gravenberch isn't there, they're looking a bit weak in those key positions and could be exploited as a result. So, I think Liverpool, if everyone's fit, I think Liverpool have the best squad in the league, personally.
Yeah.
And I think they're outright favourites to win it. I'd go City still as second favourites because of the pedigree that they have in winning leagues in recent seasons. Obviously, they've finished they've won 5 of the last 7 titles, I think, and Rodri is obviously back as well this time around. And then I'd put Arsenal very close. It's very close between them. Would be in third. So that would kind of be. That's not where I'm thinking it will finish up, but that's just my rankings of favourites for the league next season. I think Arsenal have shown to punch above their weight, above their expectation. And I think that's a characteristic and a trait they take forward into this season. So the big thing for me is not coming to the end and being trophyless. Like if we are trophyless for a 6th full season under Arteta, that's a really difficult place to be. To be like, I've always said that he's got this contract to win the Premier League or the Champions League to justify giving him another one.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he earned the last contract by putting Arsenal back into title relevancy and putting us back into place for the first time in more than a decade where we're challenging for the league again. But now you're there, this contract with the investment, the resources, the squad quality that we have, I think you've got to show that you're capable of winning it. I think he showed he's capable of winning it in 23-4 when we were 1 win away from winning it. But this is now a squad that's had investment. It's got the centre forward. It's got depth in every single role. It's on you now to take this team to that silverware. Now, if we get to the end of the season and we finish like 1 point off the title, or we've got to a Champions League final and lost, like that's where the whole people viewing football in a binary way of no trophies equals absolute failure. It's a terrible season. But if you have reached a final of a Champions League, just missed out on the title, you can kind of compartmentalize and contextualize that.
Yeah.
But it would still be absolutely gutting, to not see. So my expectation and aims are got to win trophies this season, got to try and get that silverware. And if we don't, there's a big conversation about why we didn't. So that's where I'm at.
And is that any trophy? So like so for this season, based on the business that let me just throw out a hypothetical scenario. So based on the business that we've done this season, the money that we've spent, if we left next season, let's say with a top 4 finish, we won the League Cup.
Yeah.
Let's just say we got knocked out in the 6th round of the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And let's say we made the semi-final again in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Do you think that for you personally, would that be like, okay, cool, I'll bring in all the context of what happened throughout the season. Maybe we could have done a bit better in other areas, but we won a League Cup.
Yeah.
Let's just reinvest in the transfer window and continue moving forward. Is that kind of the mindset that you have?
I think so. I think I'd be at the end of that season, I'd be saying, right, he's ended that trophy drought. Great. We've got to another Champions League final. So you finish in within the top 4 of the best teams in Europe currently as where you stand. And again, finish 2nd or 3rd. If we finish 4th, it would look a bit weird. But if you're looking still in that top 2 of the Premier League, it would be difficult to. I'd find it hard to justify saying no. You've got to get rid of him now, because we would have taken another step closer, to winning. Especially when I said that, I look at City and Liverpool as having more pedigree and a more higher chance than us still, and that comes from the investment, the squad they've got, the managers they've got, and also the pedigree, that they've done it. They've gone and won it. So we haven't done that yet. So I can't give us that pedigree because we've not done it yet. When we do, if Arsenal were to win the league this season, they'd absolutely be favourites for the league next season, because that's kind of how it works. So, I think I'd still end the season a little bit disappointed with just the League Cup. I wouldn't be sitting there going, "What a season!" Like, you know, I would be like, but I would be. I'd be semi-satisfied. I guess would be the word. Yeah.
Hey, I would be drunk at the trophy celebration, so I won't lie to anybody. But yeah,
that's in April, so you got a lot still left of the season to go.
Yeah, actually, that's true. But hey, I guess I'll drink to celebrate, and then maybe the rest will be drinking for my sorrows. So hey, a bit of balance, right?
Yeah.
A bit of good, a bit of bad. But do you know what? Yeah, something that I really wrestle with, and this is more so now in the realms of talking about Arsenal on YouTube. Yeah, because I never had to wrestle with this when I wasn't a content creator. I never had to wrestle with this when I was commenting online about football. I never had to wrestle with this. But we have come to a point now where we haven't won a major in so long that it's very difficult to honestly see when we change that. Like, I feel like it's been, and I also feel like there's a lot of Arsenal fans that, and sometimes I'm kind of I make this same mistake where we look at Arsenal as a institution and what we've done over the course of history and what I've seen Arsenal do since I've been alive, which is quite a lot of years. You know, I'm still not super old, but still quite a lot of years. And I find it very difficult to find a balance between I really need to win that next Premier League while still understanding that I'm actually quite far away from it. Like, I actually am quite far away from it. And not just from like a kind of personnel perspective or a financial perspective or even like just a quality of football perspective. For me, it's mentality. I think when you go an extended period of time of not winning the Premier League, it's very difficult for you to change that. You need magic within whatever it is that you're running. So for me, if I don't win the Premier League next season, I'll be upset. For every year that I don't win the Premier League, I'll be upset. And I'm now starting to get to the point where I don't know how happy I can be with Arsenal going into future seasons, knowing the season before I didn't win the Premier League, because the Premier League has a big emotional attachment to me. Like, there's some people that I celebrated the Premier League with as an Arsenal fan that they're no longer with us. So I've got like emotional attachments to those celebrations as well. Like, what do you think? Like, how do you think Arsenal fans should view it? Like, obviously, everyone's entitled to viewing it in their own way, but at what point do you feel like an Arsenal fan is entitled to say, man, enough is enough. I need something to drastically change?
What do you mean by drastically change? You mean sacking the manager? Is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, that's not the only change that could. It could be like, when I think of drastic change, I think of like maybe new ownership, or maybe current ownership adopting a different model at the club, or maybe a manager change, or maybe an overhaul of the squad, like maybe getting rid of like star, kind of in a sense, like do whatever you have to do to bring about massive change. Like, when do you fit? Because obviously there's generation gaps. So I've waited 22 years so far to see another Premier League. Some people have only waited 5 years. Some people have only waited 7, 10. It's like, it all varies. Some people 1 or 2. So obviously their patience.
Some people have never seen it.
Yeah, some people have never seen it. Some people have seen Arsenal win nothing. So obviously their threshold for, I guess, pain is a lot higher. They can wait a lot longer because they haven't been on this journey that me and you have been on for many years. Like, at what point do you think it's justified for an Arsenal fan to start calling for major change?
I think that regression's a word I'd use. If Arsenal look like they're going backwards, that's a really big thing. If you think we're not heading toward that goal, like based upon what Arsenal have done in the last 4 seasons, I'd say they are one of the clubs that at the start of a campaign, you put in the bracket of teams that you think could win the title or the Champions League. And I think fans would put Arsenal into the bracket of they're one of the teams that could win it. They could win the title or the Champions League this season. And that's a good place to be. That's a nice place to be. That's the nicest place you can be, really, as a football fan, is to be among those clubs that are considered potential favourites, potential candidates for a title or a Champions League. So last season was really odd because we kind of went, we were worse in some terms, but obviously there are reasons why we were worse that were out of our control. And despite being worse, we still went further in the Champions League than we have done in the last, 15 years? And obviously still managed to finish second in the table and got to 2 cup semi-finals that season, of course, as well. So that's the irony. For me, when I look at kind of from a football fan point, I think it's personal to you, isn't it? Like my context is I grew up in a household where I had the Arsenal influence from my granddad's side of things. But like my dad's a Gillingham fan. Misery is every single week for their it's just misery. It's just misery and disappointment all the time. And when I was younger and I couldn't afford to go to Arsenal, I'd go with my dad because I wanted to go see football every week. So I'd go and watch them. And it's miserable. It's miserable. It was miserable. I saw one promotion. It was a decent season, but miserable. And then you've got like my wife is a Charlton fan. Her dad's a Charlton fan.
Okay.
Her mum's a West Ham fan, and that side of the family are West Ham. And so you've got kind of this, I've got this influence of League One, League Two, League One Championship, lower level Premier League. Like I've got all this context. And if I ever mention, if I say last season to my father-in-law, he'd be like, what do you think of Arsenal last season? I'd be like, it weren't a great season for us. He was like, you finished second, mate. You finished second in the best league in the world. And you're moaning. But how ungrateful you are. I've had to sit, and to be fair, they got promoted last season, Charlton, in the playoffs, so they had a decent campaign. But he's been stuck in League One for most of the last 10 years. And it's that context, isn't it? So that context to me, I think, is really important. But I also think you have to look in the context of who you are as a club. An Arsenal Football Club are considered one of the best teams in the world and have different expectations contextually to those other teams. And so I think, based upon what we've done in comparison to the other clubs, because that's also important, I'm never one to get on board with the whole, look, that classic phrase of how much have we spent? Because I'm like, we've spent a lot of money. But if you look at how much City have spent since Pep Guardiola took over, it's far more than what we've spent in that same amount of time. And not only that, but their squad before Pep Guardiola took over had already won the Premier League under 2 of their previous managers. So it's context, isn't it? I want to be in a position where at the start of every season, I think Arsenal can win the league. That for me is where I want to be at the beginning of a season. If I think we have a campaign next season where Arsenal regress and fall away to the point where I'm like, I can't see Arsenal being amongst those teams, then I think we're in a position where you have to go, do we have to make a change? Does something need to change? That's when I would feel to be in a personal position of, I think that maybe something needs to change. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think that if you are among the clubs that can win it at the start of a season, and I believe Arsenal are among those clubs this season, I think you have to be pretty darn pleased about being in that position when a season kicks off.
I agree. Because it's so strange because when I speak to all of my friends that are Arsenal fans, and there's a lot, family as well, that don't speak about football online. They are all happy with where Arsenal are at.
Like, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, like literally, I went to go see one of my old friends from school not too long ago. He has a bar, and I sat down with him, and I was like, because I felt like I hadn't spoken to someone about football in a very long time. That was just, well, I know we're normal, but like normal, like not involved in the game. And I was like, hey, so like, how do you feel about like Arsenal like at the moment? And he's like, man, I remember the days when when we was nowhere near being able to challenge, and now I'm sitting down and I'm actually watching Arsenal challenge for the league, and it's like I hear that perspective because I remember there was a time when I hated watching Arsenal. I hated it so much. I won't lie to anybody. I hated it so much because I just couldn't see where we was going. Like I refer to it as the Mustafi in a do-rag era. Like to me, like it got really dark. And now I feel like maybe I'm a bit privileged because I get upset that we don't win the league. Obviously, I don't think there's no excuse that we haven't won a trophy in 5 years because we could have won any trophy. It doesn't necessarily even need to be the Prem or the Champions League.
Yeah, we should have won a trophy in those years. Yeah. Europa League, definitely.
Oh yeah, Europa League. Oh, Baku. Oh my, pain. See, we know pain, and now it's like I would say from 3 seasons now, because the 22-23 season caught everybody off guard. That season, I thought we was getting top 4. But now from then, I know even this season, I know we're going to challenge for the league. Like people control whatever they want. They can say, "Oh, who have you really signed? Madueke this, all of that." But I know as soon as a ball is kicked on the pitch, Arsenal are going to be one of the teams at the top of the table. I can say that confidently. And that's you're right. That is a very good feeling because we haven't been able to do that for a very long time.
Yeah.
So it's the balance. Like, so this season, I think I'm gonna really try and like filter the kind of information that I take. Because I feel like it came to a point last season where I was just getting angry all the time. I was getting angry, I was getting annoyed, I was getting up. And I feel like it's because I was exposed to way too many different opinions, not only just on Arsenal, but on football. So I think, I don't know. Maybe I'm going way too philosophical for what you could have ever prepared yourself for coming on this stream. But
I do it all the time. It's what I like.
But yeah, I just like, I don't know. I feel like as a fan, there's all different types of fans. I don't feel like anyone can police on how to be a fan. Like, however you want to support your club, support your club. You know, you're entitled to. We're all adults. You do what you do, right? But I just feel like in every single scenario under the sun, when it comes to competing, your club's going to do infinitely better if you back it than if you don't. If that makes sense. Because whenever I go to the stadium, hey, I leave without a voice because I'm shouting and I'm screaming, and in my own mind, I believe that that's helping. I am the 12th man. I believe that. So, yeah, I'm gonna. Do you know what? I'm gonna say the crazy. Do you know what? We'll wrap this up. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to force you into a prediction because
a prediction is tough, aren't they?
But I will boldly do one. Yeah, I will boldly, happily do one. We are finishing first. There, I said it.
Love it.
It's out there. I said it. It's out there now. It's out there. And like I said, on my channel, I'll say whatever I want in it. When I go to other people's channels, I'm going to be like, oh, I know. Yeah, I don't know. I never said that. You know what I mean? But on my channel, yeah, I think we can do it. I'm super. The one thing that has me super positive that Arsenal can mount a real good challenge for the Premier League is that surely we can't fail 4 times in a row. I mean, the last time we came,
the law of averages.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. The last time we finished second 3 times in a row, we finished first.
We did win it the season before those 3 second places, though.
We did.
Yeah,
we did. But we did. But yeah, no. Do you know what? Love coming on. I enjoyed the conversation. You know, I appreciate the time. Hope you've enjoyed yourself as well.
Yeah, of course, man. It's an absolute pleasure. Nice conversation. I mean, predictions wise, like I'm happy to be brave, and so I think we'll lift silverware this season. I'll say that. You know, I'm happy to go on record and say I think we'll win silverware this season. But I genuinely don't know which one. So, but I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm like more excited than I was at the start of last season. Certainly, you know, seeing how Gyökeres is going to do, seeing what Arteta is going to do with this team. Hopefully, we see changes and improvement and evolutions this season. Become more. We take that handbrake off. You know, as we were talking about. You know, I really, really am looking forward to this campaign more than I have done in a while. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, yeah, thanks again. You know, all the people that did come through and all the people that will watch this on playback, go and support Tom over at the Gooner Talk. It is in the title. It is in the description. Obviously, you know, we've got our own goals, trying to hit 10K as soon as possible. So if you can drop a like, if you can drop a subscribe on your way out, that would be much appreciated. I am going to send you over to the catch up now. So go over there, show them some love, drop them a hooks raid, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.